And we are live. So, welcome to episode 276 of An American Werewolf in New Jersey. I am Michael Martin, a.k.a. The American Werewolf. In the house tonight, we've got Dr. John K. Alvarez, the sober angel. He's looking for a rational approach to life. And as I was saying just before we went on, I think I've heard that line somewhere before, kind of recently. It'll come to me. Mm-hmm. Good to see you
Words
again.
Of wisdom.
Yes, indeed. Indeed. So as the summer sort of winds down, we come to, the trickling out of the summer of Kurosawa. And there's been a number of films that this channel has covered, either via live stream or, pre-produced video. We covered Heaven and Hell. Which is also known as High and Low, which is about to be re-released on Apple TV in a remake by Spike Lee and Denzel Washington. That's going to be an interesting remake.
That'd be cool, yeah.
Yeah, we covered, I covered Ikiru from 1952. And that was a fantastic watch. We've covered Ran. We've covered Rashomon. We've covered Seven Samurai. And now we prepare to cover Drunken Angel. So if you're ready to go, shall we kick it off?
Let us begin.
Boogie Boogie. So we talked about when we got to Rashomon, and it never occurred to me as I thought of the summer of Kurosawa, what we would talk about in terms of his viewpoints on post-war Japan, because a lot of the films that we did cover are filmed and occur in the early 50s, immediately after the war. We talked about Rashomon, and maybe he was making a commentary on the state of Japan after the war. And, 1950, we talked about with Rashomon, and then 54, we said they were ready for some heroism again from Tired Warriors with Seven Samurai. But this film, and maybe if I had thought it out a little more, I would have done it, chronologically, is from 1948. And it's a very, Japan is just a dirty, toxic, polluted, open sewer of a place. It's angry. Everybody's just, snipping and snapping at each other. People are just broken. Go ahead.
To say it was bleak, especially in this rendition, in this film, would be an understatement. I mean, just the pond of water that they kept going back to and as the metaphor, and I'm going. The first time I saw it, I went ooh,
Yeah.
and then as the movie went on, every time I saw it, I'm like, it's getting worse. It really is.
Yeah, I should mention that this movie is currently available for free on Plex, which is a
Mm-hmm.
free streaming channel where you can see, hey, a killer Kurosawa movie. It really is. This is the first collaboration between him and Toshiro Mifune. I think the first
Yes.
of 16, which then later, ended with Redbeard. Maybe we'll get to that. Maybe we won't. I would like to.
Mm-hmm.
It's you've got Mifune as this Matsunaga character who is
Mm-hmm.
a yakuza. He's a
Mm-hmm.
drunk. He's more. Oh, he's almost kind of like a punk, but
Yeah.
like a young punk. But in the absence of the real boss who's gone to prison for slicing
Mm-hmm.
somebody up with a razor,
Mm-hmm.
he's sort of put in charge of this yakuza gang. He walks the streets and everybody gets out of the way when he's coming down the street.
Mm-hmm.
Stop and bow, and he gets to take free food from the open markets, and
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of the precursor, I think, and maybe the first time that we start to see the struggling gangster.
Right.
That maybe we would see later, 30, 25 years later, in The Godfather, the Michael Corleone, the Vito Corleone sort of character, the moral guy he's a gangster, but he's got a certain kind of code. Did you pick up
Right.
on any of that?
I actually, when I first saw it, the first scene and everything else, I was waiting for, because you could see the influence of the American filmmaking in this, because I was waiting for like a James Cagney or Humphrey Bogart to walk out. But then as I started really, really getting into it, and it was getting towards the end, or even in the middle, I think it was the first time I saw him in a dance hall where he was just swaying back and forth. I sat there and I said, this guy reminds me of Tony Montoya at the end. And that's what I thought was a good idea to jump into, as opposed to seeing him in the beginning where he was cocky and cool. You just see how it's wearing on him, that this doesn't fit him type deal. And I love that.
Yeah, he's very young. He has tuberculosis. And the premise of the story is that while being treated for a bullet wound by the local doctor who sort of just treats everybody, he comes to discover that he has tuberculosis. And this doctor's very rough around the edges. He's kind of a drunk, or he drinks too much at least.
Yep.
He kind of goes on this campaign to save Mifune from himself.
Right.
It is possible to place this man on a redemptive arc, which he, to some extent has some success in.
Mm-hmm.
Takashi Shimura is the doctor. Sanada, I think he kind of is the drunken angel, not in a flowery. I mean, he'll shout at you, he'll curse at you, he'll throw things at you, he'll call you a fucking idiot. These sorts of things. Yeah. But it's like a tough love kind of, underneath all of that, there's a morality to it, and there's a kind of love there that he has for people that he believes are, worth saving.
Right. When he yells in the very beginning of the movie, when the doctor yells at the kids to stay away from the pond.
Yeah.
And they're giving him such grief and calling him a drunk, and he's still screaming at them. But then, he'll complain about them, but then he'll correct them again. Say, don't do this. You know.
Yeah.
He still gives a damn, even though he's tired.
Yeah, that was a great scene, and there's a shot from it here.
Yeah.
There's this sort of open sewer which was a theme that followed up later in Ikiru, when the same actor Shimura played the bureaucrat. They're dealing with an open sewer that he's trying to turn into a playground in 4 years later in 1952 in post-war Japan. But here it's just an open sewer and it's bubbling. There's one scene where it's bubbling, and you get the impression when I saw that, I don't know if you noticed it, that maybe one of the yakuza dumped a body in there.
Yeah.
Did you notice that scene?
I noticed that. Yeah.
And that's what I thought. I'm like,
and I'm going, and what a perfect place to hide him. You know?
Yeah, and he has this face where he the doctor kind of recoils because he realizes somebody might still be down there just breathing their last breath.
Right.
You know, into this, and it's just terrible. But you're right. He gets after these kids. Get the hell out of here. You're going to get typhoid. If you get stung by these mosquitoes, there are mosquitoes everywhere because there's no proper sanitation. The kids are like, get out of here. You're a drunk. Who are you to tell me? You know, and these little kids are just disrespecting him. And he starts to come around that pond. He's like, I'll show you disrespect. And the little bastards run away. Right. You know, he's like, I'll show you fucking disrespect, you little pieces of shit. You know, and, you know, but it's because he cares.
Yeah.
You know, he's not Ebenezer Scrooge. You know, he's like everybody else who's just trying to survive.
Exactly. And he knew what happened before, you know, years before during the war and everything else. It was just somebody who was, to me, stressed to his extreme.
Yeah.
But still wanting to help, you know, still not forgetting his oath. He was just tired.
Yeah.
That's the one thing I got about him the most. He was so tired looking.
And I think that was apropos of just about every character in here. You know, they're just trying to survive and rebuild their country that has just been annihilated. I'm sure they're all feeling a great shame. For I think 20 million Japanese people died in the war. God knows how many other people, you know, from other countries, you know, on both sides, the Allies and the Axis died. You know, it's just, it's a terrible thing. So they're slowly trying to rebuild. I should mention, there's no mention of the occupation because at this time in 1948, the Allies are very much there in Japan rebuilding. There's kind of a martial law kind of effect going on there with the military, you know, sort of taking control of things so they can, you know, expedite as quick as possible the reconstruction. But none of that was allowed to be mentioned in the movie. There was a U.S. censorship ban. But that's redundant, but a U.S. censorship board that didn't allow Kurosawa to mention the occupation. Do you think that would have made a difference, or would it have detracted from the story that Kurosawa was trying to tell?
I think it would have distracted from the story, because, I mean, looking at the world through the eyes of the Drunken Angel, he's bearing the pain. And not the pain of what was brought by the Americans, but by the pain what Japan was involved in, their start. To me, it was, for lack of taking a brunt of the responsibility of their actions in it.
Yeah.
And they did, in one form, actually, you know, take a shot at the American occupation. You know.
What did they do? Tell me.
In the dance club, where the one singer was really singing, somebody said if you listen to some of that words, she's complaining about the occupation. You know? It, like, soldiers go home was one of the lines, and they said when she was really screaming and getting into it, and they said that was just Kurosawa, I think, working that in, but that was it. It wasn't a focal point, it was a moment, you know, which I kind of liked as the story went on, because I think the story had to concentrate on the people in that town or that area and not outwardly.
Well, I think one of the things he also was critical of was that Japan was quickly becoming westernized.
Right.
Like the transformation is very fast.
Yeah.
You see the girls there, they're wearing summer dresses and skirts, and the men are all wearing, two-piece suits.
Oh, God, yeah.
They're wearing, all the tradition has gone out of Japan. It's like they're trying to push it aside in exchange for this. Okay, we've lost the war. Let's embrace the world again, because Japan for hundreds of years was a closed society. Now, it's a conquered society. And they've had two atomic bombs dropped on them, and so the transition after that is they're listening to blues music and swing music.
Right.
They're in dance halls, and they're drinking. They're not drinking traditional Japanese drinks. They're drinking sake. They're drinking whiskey. And things like that. So I think that was part of what Kurosawa was trying to say. Maybe things were changing, and he had mixed feelings about it.
Right. The one scene that I think that really stuck out, Michael, is when the friend picked up the doctor in a taxi ride, and they were looking out the window saying it looks so weird to see people when you're in a taxi.
Yeah.
And I sat there and said, of course, it was a rickshaw.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to, sound too naive on it, but a taxi would be new. And the way he looked at it, he said they look so strange.
Yeah.
So funny.
I was like,
wow.
Like I said, when I started, this idea for Kurosawa, it never occurred to me that, he would, I never looked at his movies through the lens of post-war Japan. I just looked at each of the films individually as this, sort of, one of the great directors, one of the GOAT directors. And I actually I didn't watch movies like this, or I watched a lot of the more samurai, the Yojimbos, the Sanjuros, these sorts of things that are, less connected to other things, and things that he did later on, maybe in the late 50s and early 60s. But these early things that he was doing, you see what he was trying to do, what he was trying to say, and it's powerful. They're powerful messages.
And I think that's when he started concentrating on the Japanese movies. After this, when he started, you can see the sense of pride he had in the heritage, and in what was in the past. I think he had to go through that, or this period now, to get to the period where he's showing more respect for, even, that he probably would. I mean, no offense, I'm going to take a guess, and I could be completely wrong, so my apologies, because you're more of the Kurosawa fan than I am, or more experienced at it, I should say. I'm becoming a Kurosawa fan because of this summer.
That's the whole point.
But like, if he didn't go through this and then embrace the heritage, he would have been doing things like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, which is nothing wrong with that type of movie, but it's not the samurai. It's not that actual stories. The seven standing against the bandits that we just covered.
Samurai, it's all part of a process. I mean, if you had later on one of the first movies I covered, and I had seen it for the first time. It's on HBO. Called High and Low. I just called it Heaven and Hell because technically that's the Japanese translation. It's the story of a man, and I think I've mentioned this before, who it's Mifune. He's a prosperous businessman. He's about to make the biggest deal of his life, and he's the victim of a kidnapping, and the kidnapper tries to kidnap his son, fails to, and accidentally kidnaps the wrong kid, which is the son of his limousine driver. Both the boys are best friends. He still wants the kidnapper still wants like a back-breaking ransom. But when you look at the film, it really was what Kurosawa was saying by the time Japan had gotten to the early 60s. He was distrustful. He was skeptical of capitalism. There's a lot of psychotic kind of capitalists in there. Even though this man is struggling with this kidnapping and forced to pay this ransom to save this little boy's life, which he agrees to do. His lenders and his creditors are still coming after him. And like one of the lines in the film is, "Hey, you can't pay kidnappers and not pay us." So those were deliberate things that Kurosawa was inserting in there. There was so much happening so fast, becoming so westernized, becoming so corporatized so quickly, which now, Japan's a major global economy.
Yeah.
But in the 60s, it was quick. It was all happening maybe a little too fast for Kurosawa's tastes.
He was predicting what was coming.
Yeah, with some skepticism. Yeah.
Most people who predict the future have skepticism. There's very few optimistic outputs that way.
Well, if you get a chance to watch it, I won't give it away, but there's a confrontation at the end of the movie, in the last 5 minutes of the movie, between Mifune and the kidnapper. And when you find out why he actually did all of this, you're like, holy, it's crazy. But it's about the wealth gap.
Yeah.
It's about the wealth gap. That's really what it's about, why he did it. And you're just like, holy shit, this is batshit crazy. But that was the journey that Kurosawa seems to have been on, tracking Japan's progress after the war.
Do you think he was more cynical in his non-samurai movies towards the life that Japan was becoming?
I think that as he progressed, a lot of the skepticism and pain went away. And he was able to make beautiful movies.
Yes, he did.
What happened after the war with a lot of Japanese directors? They were highly critical of the empty sort of codes that Japanese people had followed, and made a lot of movies about them. So this was, Kurosawa may have been the best of them, but there were many Japanese people who made many fine films, maybe even samurai films or whatever, but were speaking to the emptiness that they had been following for hundreds of years that almost led to the destruction of the world.
Right.
I think as Kurosawa went on, when you finally get to stuff like Redbeard, or maybe even Ran, which is just his interpretation, that has nothing to do with Japan anymore. I think he had to get it out of his system. Like everybody else that was processing that, I think he just had to get it out of his system. I think people like Mifune probably, and everybody that was living there at that time was probably feeling the same way. In that sense that he was skeptical of, the West. He was also very adamantly critical of the yakuza. And when he finally confronts that Okada boss, the big boss, gets out of jail and sort of quickly supplants Mifune, and he's just like, this feudalism system. Because the guy tries to be a bully, and take that woman back who's been in hiding with the doctor for all those years. And he's like, this feudalistic system, it doesn't exist anymore. No, your time is over with. You're coming out of jail, but the world has moved on while you were gone.
That was a great scene.
Yeah, it was.
Really was a great scene, man. Because that's the one thing I liked about the doctor a lot. He didn't back down to anybody.
No.
Initially, I thought he was doing it to oh God, what's his name?
Mifune.
I can never say his name.
Hold on a second. Matsunaga.
Thank you, Matsunaga. When he was talking to him and calling him a drunk and everything else, they were both slapping. At points, I was laughing because I'm like, this is almost like a Three Stooges bit.
Yeah.
But when he showed up to the old boss, he didn't back down, and I'm going, God damn, man! Talk about planting your feet and saying, I'm going to start yelling the truth at you.
Here and no further. No further. Yeah.
I really, I think it was at that point in time I said, the doctor isn't weak. Because that's what at one point I was thinking he was because of the drinking and everything else. He was just giving up. And I'm like, no, man, he just needed a focal point, and that was it.
Yeah. I think that to some extent, and there are also, I think helping people, of course, gives you purpose.
Right.
Service, a life of service, which is kind of what he's about, even though he's kind of a drunk. It gives him purpose. There's that also character, that 17-year-old girl that he's helping from tuberculosis. He's helping heal her from tuberculosis.
Right.
And she's just a model patient, and she's so respectful of him, and again, also like when we talked about in Rashomon with the baby, you get the impression by the end of the film that, she's the future.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
She's not dirty. She's not angry. She's not spoiled by what's happened. She's bright-eyed. She's lovely. She's everything, you could hope for. She's attractive. And this is what, Japan is going to look like in the future. Somebody like this. People who listen.
Yeah. I don't mind that you yell at me, Doctor. Your anger doesn't scare me. And I'm like, because I liked her. She could have been, or that character could have been, I don't want to say effervescent or just overly bubbly, but because she did respect him. But she was the first one I saw that was optimistic.
Yeah.
And she had tuberculosis.
Yeah.
That was the thing. She's like, no, I'm going to beat this.
Yeah.
And I'm going, God damn.
Yeah. And, at the end of the movie, she shows up and she's like, you owe me a sweet. You owe me a sweet.
You owe me a sweet.
Let's get, where are we going? Where do we get that? She's like, don't you know anything? You get them at the sweet shop. Let's go. You're going to buy me one right now. These sorts of things.
I always thought this when I watched the sweet shop, because I kept going back and watching that scene. I always kept on wondering, it's in the world, because it's not the first thing that was bleak or mucky, or like when he had the 100% alcohol and was putting a little tea in it to drink, and stuff like that. That was the first thing that she was saying. It's in the sweet shop. It's over here.
Yeah,
and I kind of liked that, because to me it was symbolic that he was going to go into the future, and that poor bartender, at the end was going back to the farm, going back to the past.
Yeah. Yeah. Are you talking about the other girl?
The female, the other girl,
yeah. Well, I mean, because that's
called her a bartender, because I couldn't tell if she was a bartender or a waitress or
kind of.
One of the dance girls.
Yeah, no, she wasn't one of the dance hall girls. She wasn't a taxi dancer or something. She just seemed to serve
and
drinks.
She really cared for the one guy that was sick. I mean, she really, she cared for him a lot. Like, even when she brought his ashes.
Tell me, what is your opinion of? I mean, because we haven't talked about him. This is a very young Toshiro Mifune, and we've been covering Mifune seemingly all summer. But what is your opinion of this performance here?
I really liked it.
Yeah.
Because of the fact
he was about 27 here.
Yeah. I appreciate an actor who can give a performance where they can show their pain without weeping. You see the pain on his face.
Yeah.
I mean, from the very first scene when the doctor's taking the bullet out of his hand and he's saying, can you give me something? But when he's talking about it and he's alone and looking at the dance halls, or the one time even dancing with one woman, you just see that pain in him.
Yeah.
And it's not from just the tuberculosis, it's him.
Yeah.
There's something in him hurting. And he plays it so well.
There's a great line in the beginning of the movie where the doctor, Sanada, says of Toshiro Mifune, and he may even say it to him, I can't remember, but he says, the evil hasn't eaten you all up yet. And that's why you're struggling. That's why you're in such pain. Like, if the evil had just consumed you all, then you would be the other boss, Okada, terrorizing women, slashing people with straight razors. Because if you notice, nobody owns a gun. The United States didn't allow Japanese people after the war for a very long time to own guns. Now it's hard to find a Japanese person that owns a gun. Now they don't want them. But I mean, everybody had a knife. If you notice in
Right.
that movie, everybody had a knife or a razor. And
Yeah.
so what was causing his pain was the fact that, he still had a conscience. He was still a human being.
Yeah.
And, living in this terrible time, he coped with it by drinking himself to death, practically. Now he finds out he's dying. And guess what? In this kind of lifestyle, unlike the 17-year-old girl, there really isn't a platform for a redemptive arc. Although you're so fucking hopeful for him, you'll want him to come out okay and go to the country with that girl, or just leave, or just give all the yakuza, stuff away and just walk off into the sunset somewhere.
Yeah. And if this was a Western type movie, that could happen. If this was a later Western type movie, this is why I was saying it reminded me of the gangster films of the 30s and the 40s, which were a little more brutal. Actually, if you go back and watch them, there was no real chance for the mobster to get out of the world that they were in.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at Angels with Dirty Faces with James Cagney, and at the end of the movie, Pat O'Brien says, "Let's go say a prayer for a guy who wasn't as fast as me," because that's how he got caught in the gambler. He got arrested, and the other guy, got away and became a priest.
Yeah.
You like if Tarantino was, I think, the only one today that would do it and do it in this fashion. Everybody else would give him the happy ending. Hollywood would want the happy ending.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I think that's why it's sticking with me a lot too, because I was expecting it. I really thought it was going to happen, and when it didn't happen, I wasn't disappointed, but I was like, God,
I was sad. I was sad.
I was sad.
Yeah, I was sad.
Yeah.
I saw this. I'm watching this for the first time. So just like you, I had no experience with this movie before. I had seen Seven Samurai and Yojimbo Sanjuro. I saw Ran. I had seen Rashomon once before. But like this, or like what was the other one we just covered? A couple of Aikido and a couple of others. I'm seeing these for the first time, they're rough stories. Your heart breaks because he's power struggling now with the new boss. Right. He's sick. Like, he shouldn't be there at all. And he's not on his best foot. He's starting to cough up blood. He's struggling not to drink because all the boss wants to do is to keep him drunk. So, he can keep him on his back foot.
Right.
And then, he says he's going to go navigate to the big boss to try to get that woman's freedom from Okada, only to find out that the big boss just wants to use him as cannon fodder. Like, they don't even give a fuck about him. Like, he's dying.
Right.
He's dying on the inside. He's dying of tuberculosis. He starts the movie with a bullet hole in his hand. And, nobody even gives a fuck. Like, he's doing all this and, fuck him.
His friends leave. The girl that, said she loved him, take care of him, go. I mean, they go right to the power.
Yeah.
They're
in love with the money, man.
And I was looking at it because I was like, and part of me said, yeah, but you're the villain. You were a villain. And then I changed. No, you were villainess, or in a villain world. You weren't the villain, man. You were. And I think that's what made me sympathetic towards him. I think all of a sudden I felt like the doctor. I wanted to help him.
Yeah.
That's what got me. And again, that goes back to what I've said many times on the show. This goes back to the art of storytelling. Just the way that was kind of a big risk that you took a Yakuza and made them sympathetic, because everybody in Japan knew what they were.
Yeah, it's kind of it probably is a distortion of, and that's the standard gangster mall now. You don't just make them straight villains. They have to be, struggling, violent but troubled. Or like you get a Goodfellas with a Joe Pesci character who was clearly a psychopath, but they made him funny. Like, I'm sure in real life that guy was not funny. The guy who played Tommy.
Yeah. Exactly.
Not a lot of laughs. And I've said this before. Vito Corleone, played by Marlon Brando, one of the greatest performances,
Yeah.
ever. He had a horse's head cut off, fucking live animal's head cut
Yeah.
off and shoved in some guy's bed just
Dead.
because his godson didn't get a part. That Johnny Fontaine. Yeah, he was
Yeah.
he was not a good guy.
No, he wasn't.
They're not good
No.
people. But that's
Loved his-
that's. Go ahead.
Yeah. I'm saying no. Vito Corleone loved his sons, loved his grandkids. Put a horse in the head. Put a horse in the bed.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Somebody said this a long time ago about Dick Cheney. Even monsters love their grandchildren.
Yeah.
Monsters love their grandchildren. And, that's the standard trope now when you make a gangster movie. You make him somewhat sympathetic. You make him an anti-hero.
Mm-hmm.
He does terrible things. Maybe he's struggling against something, but the best way to do it is to put him up against someone who's just worse, who's just flat out evil.
Right.
And so, maybe this is one of the first attempts at that. And, I remember Bill telling me when he was watching The Sopranos, which I've never watched. I've never watched The Sopranos.
Right.
I just don't feel that there's anybody in there to root for. He goes, every time you saw a character that you thought was going to go on a redemptive arc, in the end, they just doubled down on the evil.
Right. Exactly. Even Tony Soprano himself.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there was a great scene where, actually, the actress that was in Goodfellas, that was married to Ray Liotta's character.
Lorraine Bracco.
Yeah. She plays
the psychiatrist.
There's a scene where she gets attacked and raped, and she's having a dream of getting attacked again, but there's a Doberman Pinscher at the end of the hall. And it was Tony.
Yeah.
And I remember watching that scene when Tony Soprano says, "Do you want me to do something?" And it's the longest goddamn pause I've ever seen on television. And when she says no and they jump right to the credits, I was watching that episode with my mother and we both fell out of the chair. Because you were leaning forward. You wanted to know what would happen. I think some people have a tendency to idolize the gangster, but the one that I noticed that you never really idolized was, and I'm going back to the movies, the Yakuza.
Yeah.
And that's what got me. I'm like, I'm feeling sympathy for this guy who I've seen in other portrayals as just cold-hearted. Because he wasn't. Amazing.
And I think that it's not even the Okada character, although that's helpful. It's the doctor. That gets him to crack and show some vulnerability. That gets what's his name? Oh God, Matsunaga to crack and show, some humanity. But I mean, that's what Sanada says in the end. He goes, Yakuza will always do the wrong thing in the end.
Right.
He goes, that's why they're pointless. It's like you can set your watch to them doubling down in the wrong direction. And ultimately, that's what happens to Mifune's character. He cannot walk away.
Right.
He has to get involved in the power struggle. He ends up getting knifed by somebody far worse than him when he could have just walked the fuck away. But he can't. He can't.
Right.
I always say this: people from the streets never leave the streets.
Right.
And they could make $50 million as an athlete, but then they get a gun charge or some other sort of fucked up charge. And I'm like, people from the streets never leave the streets.
Yeah. The streets never leave you.
No, and it's heartbreaking when it happens, man, when you see him and it pans right to the next scene where the doctor's walking and he's buying those mandarins or whatever, and he's like, oh, they're for a patient. And you're like, oh man, you're never gonna.
Yeah. And it was funny. He was hopeful.
Yeah. We all were. We all were.
It was like, damn, man.
I don't know if this is Mifune. I don't think it's either Kurosawa or Mifune's best movie. And it's very raw, and you could see, it's their first collab together. You could see what Kurosawa was trying to do, but.
Yeah,
it was damn effective.
You saw the beginning of the brilliance in this.
Yeah.
Between writer, director, and an actor who, I mean, after I watched this movie, I did some research, and one guy goes, and it's the actor's name I can never pronounce either, but it's but they're saying he was the samurai films like Clint Eastwood was to westerns.
Yeah.
But he said, but then again, Clint Eastwood did movies that weren't westerns either, and he's talking about this. He was brilliant in this. I mean, there's moments where he's just looking at the camera, and you're seeing everything on his face. He doesn't have to say a word.
Yeah, that scene where he's in the bed and that woman is leaving, and she's like, "Oh,
Yeah.
I just got to go away for a couple of days." He just looks at her like he's not upset. He knows exactly what's happening. He knows exactly that power is shifted, and he's just, he's got his head like cocked back toward. She's looking over like this, and he's like, "Really? You're not even going to tell me the truth? You're not even going to." No. Yeah, I know exactly. Yeah.
But no, it's. I mean, it was funny because I'm like, we're about the heart. Yeah. He was getting, and the scene where the woman was talking about going back to the farm.
Yeah.
The look that was on his face there.
Yeah.
Like, oh, that sounds so nice.
I was genuinely afraid that he was going to blow up at her. Like, get away from me, and have another, and he didn't do that. I'm like, oh, that's that, because if he had done that, I was like, oh man, that's just, because she just,
that could be irredeemable.
It certainly would have injured my final perception of him. And it was good that Kurosawa didn't have him do that. I mean, it's just.
But you knew he wasn't going. There was a look that hit his face, and I'm going, he's not leaving with her.
Yeah.
And it's killing me.
Yeah.
And when she starts seeing it, he's not leaving with her.
It killed me. It killed me when he got killed in Seven Samurai. He's the one who kills the chief.
Yep.
He kills that fucking. He kills the bandit chief, and it ends up taking his life because he's so guilty about going to get that rifle. And that old man gets killed in the village that he leaves in his place to stand the guard, and he just goes crazy, trying to, make up for it, and he ends up getting himself killed, and you're just like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Mifune is just like one of the great actors, and I think he's kind of underrated. Like, people don't, he's not an American actor. When people think of actors, a lot of times they think of, the Americans, but this guy, man, wow.
He plays the subtle moments fully.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people who turn around and say, like, he can go over the top with stuff. And I think that's more of the style of the Japanese acting.
Yeah.
But when there are subtle points, I'm going, because I'll watch it even as a writer, and I'm going, you know what? I'd be putting dialogue here. And there's none. There's none needed.
No, it's just space. He gives it space. And who was it? I think it was Miles Davis who said it's the space between the notes that makes the music.
Right.
And Kurosawa really had no problem with giving, space or silence or just a long shot. I mean, fantastic.
And he had the paint, and he had the, Kurosawa being the artist, he had the paintbrush right there in this actor to do it. I mean, those strokes were brilliant.
Yeah.
So, and they, because when I was watching this, I'm going, okay, it's starting out, and all of a sudden I'm going, holy shit.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
And deeper.
Because, for 20 minutes, it's just him and the doctor cursing and wrestling each other.
Yeah.
You're like, what the fuck?
And I was laughing at some of that. I was like, this is funny.
It is like the Three Stooges.
Getting into it, I was like, holy shit, this is a lot deeper than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, first time watch. I got to say it again. Yep. This movie is currently on Plex, which is a free streaming channel. There's also a free copy on YouTube. There's a free copy out there on YouTube. It's just out there. I don't know if it's part of YouTube Movies, but somebody's uploaded this. This movie is just over 90 minutes long. So it's not like it's not a 3-hour, film or anything like that. Mm-hmm. And it is worth fucking watching. If you are a fan of film, if you are a fan of cinema, this is worth watching.
And one of the things that really got me is also some of the music, when the music was used. The scene where the doc is talking to him and it's outside the club, and he goes, "I know how to tango," and he does, And it took me a few seconds to realize they're playing St. James Infirmary.
Oh, were they?
That's what they're playing. And if anybody doesn't know St. James Infirmary, it's about a guy who's a gangster who's saying, if I'm laid out, get me my Stetson, get me the. And I'm going, oh, that is so perfect. But that's what they're playing. It's a piano and horn. It's a standard version of St. James Infirmary. And I'm going, well done, man. Nice choice.
This has been a really good experience covering these films. We've got a couple more to do before we get to Labor Day, maybe 2 more, and then that'll be it. But I mean, these are top shelf things to watch, man. This is what it's about. This is what it's about.
If you like cinema, and not just watching movies, but if you genuinely like the storytelling in cinema, there's very few who do it better.
Yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And it's amazing because I'm reading subtitles, which always bugs me. And I'm, because my eyes don't move as fast as they used to. But I'm sitting there going, no, I'll rewind it again to catch it. If that moment caught me, wait a minute, go back. It's worth the watch, man.
Give me a story. That's what I said. Hold on a second. Yeah. We've got a comment here that came in quite a while ago. It's from Eric, from Hey Internet Eric here. He says, can't stay, but I hope you 2 gentlemen, notice the quotations, are doing well. So, Eric, go fuck yourself. All right. So,
in quotes.
Fuck yourself. Okay. Fuck yourself. All right. All right. So, yeah, there you go. All right. Is there anything that we have not discussed in this film that you would like to address?
No, actually, I really think everything was addressed and addressed well.
Okay. Sounds good. Yeah, I feel no. I think we've covered it all. No issues there. Okay, let's get to the part in the stream where we rate the film. This channel has a rating system that goes from 0 to 5 up by halves. So 0, 0.5, 1, 1.5, all the way to 5. So 0, for example, would be I'd rather sleep in a swamp rather than watch this movie again, all the way to 5, which is this is the journey, this is the destination, this is why I watch films in the first place. What would you give Akira Kurosawa's Drunken Angel? And I should say that this copy that I bought, or maybe somebody gave it to me, has no English subtitles. They're in Korean or Japanese, so I'm going to have to buy a new copy. Yeah, so.
There you go.
What would you give the film?
It was funny because I was thinking of the rating program after I had watched it, and I was sitting there thinking 4.5, and then I'm going, the more and more I talk about it, I said, no, even though it was the early attempts, it was like his rookie year. I'm giving him a 5.
Okay.
I'm giving him a 5 purely for the storytelling and for what he had to present. He presented it well with what he had.
Yeah. Yeah. And considering there was a censor board run by the U.S. government, he kicked out quite a piece. For me, I had walked into this stream looking at about a 4. After talking it out with you, I'm going to 5.
Yeah.
I don't know what to complain about. I mean, once you understand the film in its entirety, which I'm saying again, is just a little over 90 minutes. Once I got past the first 15 or 20 minutes where they're arguing, you're like, wow, this is a really good fucking movie. And like a couple of times, when the gangster, when Okada shows up to the doctor's house, when they're in the knife fight with Okada, when Mifune is just face down at the bar after he's been betrayed and that woman's trying to convince him to come with her to the country. Yeah. My father owns a nice little property, it's got a nice stream, we won't walk for anything ever, like I literally was on the edge of my seat, like what's going to happen here?
Right.
And
it's from this point that you can say, like, if I was teaching a film class on Kurosawa, it would be this one I would show and say, now remember this as we go forward.
Yeah.
because it was, you saw everything that was him as a filmmaker with no big budget, no, but you saw what he was doing.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
If I had known more, I would have started the summer with this first. And
Yeah.
would have gone chronologically. Maybe gone to Rashomon after that, then maybe Seven Samurai, or maybe
Yeah.
Ikiru after that, and then maybe Seven Samurai after that, because Ikiru is
Yeah.
a very bittersweet sort of film too.
Yeah.
Where the guy who plays the doctor is a bureaucrat who finds out he's dying of stomach cancer, and he's got less than a year to live, and he's trying to find some meaning in his life with the time remaining, and he takes like that open sewer that we see in this film, and he wants to, because he's a bureaucrat, he wants to clean it up and turn it into a playground, so children can have some place to play, which that's his last sort of wish to do. Moving to Seven Samurai, then getting maybe to High and Low, but it turned out the way that it turned out. We're taking him piecemeal, and I'm not complaining. So
yeah, but you know what? You're taking it and actually talking about it.
Yeah.
How many? I mean, unless you're in one of those extreme film classes where they will talk around and break down every movie, I'm actually happy you picked it, because I'm going, it's making me watch some movies I've never seen.
Yeah.
I'm going, well, isn't this a discovery?
Yeah. They're out.
Well,
they're out
you.
there, man. Yeah. No. Thank you. Thank you for joining me on this in this conversation. I really do appreciate it. Is there anything you need to plug?
Well, if you haven't noticed, I'm drinking from my pirate mug, since it was Seafarers Weekend last weekend at Cold Spring Village in Lower Township. This weekend, they're doing Paranormal Weekend.
Oh.
They're having a bunch of people coming in with the whole video and audio stuff, and they're doing things from the village, and they're giving lectures. And it's funny because I'm getting kicked out of the schoolhouse, because I kept saying the schoolhouse is haunted, and they're saying, no. And they're like, yeah, it is. We're going to put a guy in there. So I'm going to be walking around the village telling scary ghost stories to people, like in a storytelling fashion.
Very nice. Very nice.
I'm like, you're going to pay me to do this? Thank you. I'm more than happy to do that.
I don't see why you wouldn't.
Yeah. How about yourself? You doing anything?
No, I mean, nothing to write home about. For this channel, we'll be back in, I don't know, do you want to come back for one more?
Sure.
Now, we're going to do The Hidden Fortress in 2 weeks,
Right.
which is one of the strong influences for Lucas's Star Wars.
Right.
But if you'd like to, if you want to meet up next week, we could do another one if you're interested. If you're not interested,
I am interested. You pick it, and I'll do the research.
Okay, I'll tell you what. As soon as we get out of the stream, hang on a second, and I'll bring the leftover ones, and we'll decide.
You got it, man.
Okay. All right. My thanks to John K. Alvarez, who is doing what? What's he doing?
Ghost stories.
No.
I'm looking for a rational approach to life.
And if you watch this movie, you will find that is the best way to live, looking for a rational approach to life. My thanks to Dr. John K. Alvarez, the doctor in residence. The doctor is in. And my thanks to all of you in the chat here who joined us tonight. We will see you all in the next video. All right, take care, everyone. God bless you. All the best. Hey, everybody. This is the American Werewolf. Thanks for stopping by. Like the video, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel.